Hello, I'm Canchen, and today we'll be going over enums and matching. So some of the goals for today, what we're going to cover in this lecture are we're going to introduce match expressions, we're going to formally introduce enums, we're going to go over the two special enums we talked about last lecture, result and option, and we'll discuss how to do control flow with enums and match. So to introduce the match expression, it lets you compare a value against a series of patterns and then execute code based on which pattern is the one that matches. And then these patterns can be literals, variable names, wildcards. It can be pretty much anything, but it must be exhaustive, so it must cover all the possibilities. To kind of introduce what this looks like in practice, here we declare an int, course, and we set it to 128. And then we declare this variable professor, which is a string slice. And what professor will be set to is the result of this match expression. So we're going to match course. We're going to look at what course is and match it against these possibilities. So we say, okay, if it's 124, it's Professor Callan. If it's 128, it's Professor Nowak, etc., etc. So we see, okay, course is 128, so it matches this arm. So professor gets set to Professor Nowak. Here, the underscore represents the wildcard that we talked about. And this underscore is important because we need to match all the possibilities. So since an integer can be like pretty much like a lot of different values, and we certainly haven't covered them all here, right? For any of the missing possibilities, we'll just set professor to IDK bro. So this is kind of like a basic introduction to how match expressions work. Now we'll talk about enums. So a motivating example of why we would want enums is suppose we wanted to model days of the week, right? We know this is a defined restricted set of values because we know there's exactly 7 days of the week, right? And it can't be any other one besides those 7. So we have a problem with how do we represent this data in our code? Well, one option, let's say we can try and use integers 1 through 7 for the 7 days of the week. But what if the user inputs something that's like outside this range, right? It would still be successfully represented by our integer, but we wouldn't really have a meaning for it. Similarly, we could try and use strings, right? But what if the user inputs something that is outside of what we previously defined, right? The way we handle these errors is we try and make them impossible to occur by using enums. So enums are a custom types with a restricted set of values. So for example, days of the week are motivating example, but some other examples could be like undergraduate student level, where we know there's exactly 4 different values, right? You can be freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or maybe colors of the rainbow. And the way this is represented in code is we can define an enum with a name, day of the week, and then each variant, here Monday, Tuesday, these are called variants. And if we declare an instance of this enum day of the week, it can only be exactly one of these variants. So for example, here we would use Thursday would be the Thursday variant of the day of the week, and you would specify this variant using day of the week : and then the name of the variant. Another thing to note about enums is that they can contain sub-values, and these sub-values can be different depending on which variant it is. So here we have a groups enum, and in the case that the variant is single, it contains a single string. If the variant is pair, it can contain 2 strings, etc. Right? Or we can even have it contain a whole collection of strings. So enums let you group data in a very powerful way. So much like how you can match integers and string slices, we can also match enums. So back to our day of the week example, if we had a variable named today that was of type day of the week, we can match it with a statement like this. So to explain what's going on here, the first case is if the day of the week is Monday. So if today is Monday, then we can print a. If it's Saturday or Sunday, we can print yay weekend. So this pipe symbol in the middle represents union, and it's kind of basically like or for these 2 cases. And then remember, we need this wildcard at the bottom to match the remaining cases, and the remaining cases are weekdays. So again, the key thing to remember about the match statements is the patterns must be exhaustive. You must cover all the possible cases. So Let's extend on this example. What if we wanted to model the number of classes on each day of the week? So if you recall, enum variants can contain values, and we can modify our enum a little bit such that all the days from Monday through Friday each contain an integer representing the number of classes on that day, and then the weekend days don't need to contain values because we don't have classes. So the way we could use this is if we initialize Thursday to be day of the week, : Thursday, and then the integer we want Thursday to hold, because Thursday is a day of the week, it's a weekday, so it needs to hold an integer to represent the number of classes. So this is how we would use enums like this. And in order to match on enums and get the value out, we have a few different strategies. One is in our match expression, when we match for Monday, we can also match for the variable inside that Monday contains. So we could call it num classes. And then if it's Monday, this num classes can be used in the code block that the match expression is going to execute. So in this case, if it was Monday, it would just print however many classes you have on Monday. The other option is we can match for what the value is that the variant contains directly. So if Tuesday contains 3, we can print this. If Tuesday contains 4, we can print, oh, I have 4 classes, right? But the thing here is we need, it's very hard to match all the cases. So again, we need to use the wildcard, since we need to consider, okay, what are all the possible integers that Tuesday could contain? So this is why we need the wildcard again, because we need to match all the possible cases. Now we'll talk about the option enum. So we talked about the option enum last lecture, but we'll explain it more formally here now that we talked a little about how enums work under the hood. And the motivating example for why we would want an option enum is to consider pointers from languages like C++. So we know that the pointer can either be valid, that it points to the address of something, or it could be a null pointer, right? And part of the challenge when developing is, well, as the developer, you need to check if the pointer is null, otherwise like bad things can happen, right? But you're not forced to, so sometimes you forget and your code just doesn't work. But what if we have a type that forces us to perform this check, right? So here's where we introduce this option type, where it's defined as it has 2 variants, it's either sum and it contains a value, or it's none. So as we said, option either is sum, it contains a value, or it's none. And maybe a different motivating example is we can think about back to the weekday and weekend variants. Let's pretend we had a function that wanted to return the number of classes you had that day, right? We know that the number of classes is only defined for weekdays, but it's not defined for weekends. So this function could potentially return an option value. Since it's not defined over the weekend, but we can still pass in a weekend to the function, we can just have it return none, and then we can have it return sum for the rest of the days. So here's another option, again, where we're trying to check, okay, does the course number match something we already know? And if it doesn't, we can just return none. Now, the reason we don't need to use option sum or option none in this case is because this enum is built in. It's included as part of like Rust's prelude, which it like automatically includes in every single Rust file. So this is why we can just use sum and none directly without the prefix. Now we'll talk about the result enum, and the motivating example here is exceptions from C++, and it's used for operations where failure can occur. So sometimes you run a function, but you might forget to catch the exception, and your code will crash, right? So what if we have a type that forces us to catch these failures? So the result enum is a special built-in enum that represents operations that can fail, and it contains 2 variants. It's either okay, and it contains the value from the operation, or it's error, and it contains a value representing data from the error. So a function typically returns a result if the failure is expected and recoverable. So if you were to call the function and it returned a result, but it was an error, you could potentially handle it and like move on with the code instead of crashing. In the standard library, this is most typically used for I/O. So maybe an example is I'm trying to read from a file, but this file doesn't exist, and I get this result back. I check, okay, it's an error, but I know I can maybe handle it by just like creating a file like that I was supposed to read. So these are some examples of how you can use result. And if you can't return a meaningful value for T or E, we can always use the unit type as a placeholder to represent like an empty value. Some useful methods we can use with option and result are isSum and isOK for option and result to check if they were successful, right? Or we can use isNone and isError to check if they were the failed variant. And these functions all return a bool. You can kind of use these as potentially alternatives to the match statement. The other function we can use is unwrap OR. So if the operation was successful, we would extract the value out, or if it was error or none, this function will return like the default value instead. So this is equivalent to a match arm that says if it was sum, we should return the value contained in the sum. Otherwise, we should return this other default value. Some examples on how we can do matching with option and result are here. So as we talked about in the last lecture, if we have a vector and we use .get, it returns an option, where it's sum if it's in bounds, or it's none if the index is out of bounds. So we can potentially use a match statement to check, okay, did we get a value? Was it in bounds? Is everything okay? Similarly, let's say we had a function that returned a result, right? We can match for if it's okay. We know that the function successfully returned a result. Or if there was an error, we can print an error and say, okay, here was the error that we got back from the function. There are some other ways that we can get the value out of option and result, and that is to use expect and unwrap. But these we should avoid if possible. The way expect works is we are 100% sure that the operation has succeeded, so please give me the value from the success. But if it happened to be like none, like it wasn't successful, then your code would just panic and it would print out this message. So this pretty much throws like the whole like, okay, we're gonna try and handle the none case out of the window, and we're just saying we are 100% sure that it was successful. Similarly, unwrap does the same thing as expect, except it doesn't print out a message, it just panics. So because these kind of like throw away like the benefits you get from using option and result, we should try and avoid these if possible in our code. That's it for all the lecture content for this lecture. For some reminders, homework 2 is due next Tuesday, and MP1 was released on Wednesday, yesterday, and it will be due 2 weeks from then. Thanks for listening.